Why aren't more people talking about this? This is the oil chart over here, Brent Crude, and this is forming an ascending wedge for the last 71 days. And I've looked over YouTube, but I'm actually not seeing a lot of people talk about this. You can see that the price of oil is breaking down from this particular pattern, showing some bearish price action. And when we look at news events, President Trump trying to largely negotiate a deal to reopen the Strait of Hormuz while these particular conversations go for the next 30 to 60 days. The SPX is moving along stably. The Russell is finding stability. Bitcoin is testing middle support lines, while the liquidation heat map is showing consistent price action to benefit the upside, and Ethereum's massive short liquidation to upside potential this week actually has a lot to give us. So tune in while we give you this analysis today. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Strategic Markets, your place for technical and fundamental analysis all at once. And into our end of week session, I would like to start off with this particular chart. This is a chart of Brent Crude, and it actually has me massively fascinated because I've been trailing this ascending wedge pattern for quite a while, but I only wanted to show it today because it actually looks like it's reasonably formulated and it's having a bit of a breakdown. I didn't want to really speak to this because geopolitical tensions are so hot. And how can I be certain that this particular pattern actually breaks down? And you guys also know very well that I don't really have belief that this particular war ends quickly or immediately. But when I read news events like $800 million worth of suspicious oil trades were placed nearly every single time that Trump spoke, it gives me a little bit concerned that maybe someone was manipulating this particular market to keep the oil prices down until the right news events came in to just bring down the price of oil. Because at the end of the day, we all know that if oil prices stay high, risk assets can't move, and that's not good for Trump's midterm elections. So, are the right narratives aligning for the price of oil to go down? Now, again, I'm not a firm believer of this largely negotiated deal or agreement with Trump being signed with Iran, but if the timeline is right, and with Kevin Walsh coming in as a Fed chair in June and having a say as to whether rates get cut or not, well, the end of May actually being a little bit pro peace and actually showing us that currently a memorandum of understanding pertaining to peace comes along, and there's a good deal between America and Iran to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, well, that could be really good for the markets. And they basically said that this memorandum would be the first thing, and they would be giving some concessions to each other, where Iran will make some things easier for America, and America will make some things easier for Iran, while they continue to words a final agreement for peace. And one of those concessions could be opening the Strait of Hormuz or partially opening it at least so that pressures on oil could drop, possibly letting this price action play out of oil heading towards the downside. Now, all of this is hopeful, but what gives me a little bit more belief is that Donald Trump himself actually did not attend his own son's wedding due to the commitment of this particular negotiation. And as particular news came in when Trump said about the largely negotiated peace deal, Bitcoin actually made a fairly high move. Markets are reacting to this. Whoever is behind this is still in belief for Trump's movements, and therefore there's some movement happening on this matter. So we just kind of have to see at how this goes. But when we look at equities, particularly to the American markets, one thing that's giving me hope is, first of all, if you look at the SPX has been trailing upwards throughout this whole particular week. So that's giving me a reasonable sign of strength. And it's actually moving it up stably and not violently, like we have this move from April start to the middle of April. It's actually moving stably. Even with the Russell 2000, we moved up. Now we're trailing a little bit of sideways, giving the markets a bit of a room to breathe. Why is this room to breathe important, particularly for me? Because it obviously signifies a little bit of stability, but it's good for risk assets such as Bitcoin to be able to then see that particular stability and make its own move, considering it's a little bit more riskier. And if you look at particularly Bitcoin's chart, well, look, it has moved a lot. When we measure from where we were at the bottom to where we are now, we have made a 38% move up, which is actually not bad for the markets. And while a lot of the people would have you believe that we are actually going to keep going down because we are this bearish flag pattern and we're going to have touched the top and now we're going down, I'm actually sadly not part of that crew. And I could be wrong, and that's okay. And I will, take accountability for that if that particularly comes. But right now, I'm looking at this particular chart. To me, the pressure for the downside has actually been clipped to the best extent. And we'll cover this in a particular second. But the Bitcoin versus the SPX chart, which is basically Bitcoin strength versus the S&P 500, you can see that we made a move up from the region that we were in Feb all the way up to the region we were in March. And now we've been trailing above that particular region, test for it for support again. And if we start making our move up again, that could be our signal for strength. That could be our reversal. We don't have a confirmation on the MACD or the RSI just yet for being oversold, but it does look like we are at a support point right now, which is a reasonable point of possible reversal. Then again, Bitcoin versus gold is in a similar position where we have broken above, we've possibly come for a retest, and we can possibly look for a move up. And one last thing, this is a really interesting aspect. We actually covered this in last week's video. There was a lot of liquidity at Bitcoin for $74,200. And look where this particular candle on the daily just ended. The low was at 74,192. So very reasonable correlation to what we spoke about our last video. And now that we are at this particular liquidity and it's being clipped, we are actually having not that much liquidity to the downside. The liquidity to the downside is collective of about 600 million from here onwards, whereas the cumulative liquidity for short squeezes or short liquidations is actually about 3.3 billion, just around the 80-82K mark. So it just looks like there's a lot of momentum to the upside. And right now, our momentum just in this particular trend is towards the upside as well. So if that follows through, well, that really looks good for Bitcoin. And another aspect that I'm really bullish for, which not a lot of people are talking about, is actually Ethereum. A lot of people have given up faith in Ethereum. And if you've been keeping up with news this particular week, 9 of Ethereum's core founders have left the businesses for their own fundamental reasons, or it actually also could be relative to the fact that price is just not performing. But you guys know that I'm a fan of RSI divergences. And right now, Ethereum is giving a really strong bullish divergence on the RSI. If you look at the price over here, you can see we are making higher highs in the price and lower highs on the RSI. But when this particular reversal on the RSI occurs, it's got so much room to move up, and it's showing the fact that that particular strength is there. So that divergence confirmed with the fact that when you look at Ethereum's liquidation heat map, liquidity to downside is collectively about 1.8 to 1.9 billion. To the upside is about $6.5 billion. We discussed this in our last video as well. So a near confirmed bearish divergence with liquidity to the upside, Ethereum to move to 2300, speculative if not, is a very reasonable move to do so. So that's why right now is a time for you to have a review as to where you hold in the market, because if you don't have a certain bias, you might just miss out on a particular move. And on that, now we're going to pass over on our other video so where you can get Steve's technical analysis and his particular thoughts that should be just related in this particular section right over here. And that subscribe button. If you've been following along, please drop us a like or subscribe to our channel as well. And if you think we could do anything better as well, please drop us a comment. On that, guys, thank you so much, and we will see you on the next one.